I wonder if one of the reasons I tried to live life so differently, and all I mean is like not going to college, quitting every job I ever had, doing weird random things, is because at least if you're gonna look at me and notice how different I am, I can make it in a positive direction.
Whatever cards you were dealt, whatever hand you were dealt, whatever resources you have, whatever country you're born in, whatever ethnicity, whatever culture, whatever religion, whatever, you can make something of that. But you have to believe that you can in order to do it.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode number 1705, 2 types of discomfort, Freestyle Friday, and many other things. Today, for episode number 1706, it may not be your fault, but it's your responsibility. I have a lot of weird thoughts. I'm a strange creature. I think about things that probably don't matter pretty often, and I like it. I'm a huge fan of that. It's one of my favorite things about me. I love that. I do. I'm strange. And I cannot claim to know what this whole weird thing is for. I don't know why we're here. I don't know what we're supposed to do with the time we were given. But if you made me take a guess, and you said, Kev, what's your best guess? What are we here for? What's the goal? What's the goal of life? I would say the goal of life is to end the cycle of struggles that you dealt with and not pass them on to someone else. One of the things that we're trying to do, and one of the reasons self-improvement is so important to us, is we're trying to break the cycle of things that have happened to us in our past. And I think that's a very noble pursuit. I think that's a wonderful goal. If that was a goal for all of us, I think the world would be a much better place. If all of our goals was, I want to evolve and grow and learn and become the type of person that would never do the things to me that happened to me. Whatever that means. Whether it's somebody intentionally doing something or it being a result of somebody unintentionally doing something that they didn't realize was going to affect you as much as it did. Right? I've been talking a lot recently about when I met my dad when I was 27. And I think one of the reasons that was such a heavy realization for me was I don't know, we're not going to have kids. Tara and I are not going to have children. So my ending that cycle is going to be very different than somebody else maybe. But for a long time, that was my goal. My goal was to be the dad that I never had. And then I think eventually it was like, all right, I think that's kind of for me, it felt more like a shallow goal of, is that really the only reason I want to have children? I don't know if that's right for me. And let me think on that. But yeah, that's my thought for this episode. It probably isn't your fault. Honestly, it most likely isn't. The majority of things that happen to us when we're kids aren't our fault. You're not, going back to the previous episode, you don't have a lot of responsibility. You don't have a lot of awareness. You don't know what a lot of it means. But later in life, I think this is why growth and especially the hard inner work is so important, because the last thing you want to do is pass on the stuff that you're struggling with to someone else. And I think if I had to make a Hallmark card on what life is about, I think it's that. I think it's ending the cycles that hurt you so they don't hurt someone else.
And by cycles, you mean patterns?
Yeah.
Whatever you grew up in.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
I would say toxicity. Whatever the toxicity that you were affected by. Whatever that toxicity
I was on a podcast earlier.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry about that.
I was on a podcast earlier. I wish I remembered the show. I know her name. She calls herself Nat B. I guess one of her, there's a story behind the Nat thing. It was wonderful. We actually started off with a little meditation, a little breath work, got centered.
Nice.
I actually just tried to do a little bit of that on our show in the last episode. I was lounging. I was going to give it a shot.
How'd it go?
I don't. Not for me.
You still got the dogs out, or are they back in the cage?
No, my shoes are still off.
Nice. I still love that for you.
Okay. You're funny, man. I just like to be engaged. I want to be in it.
You're a weird dude.
I want to be in it.
Yeah. I'm surprised you don't have a full suit on. You know what I mean? Full suit, tie.
I do. I like to
pocket square.
Be in it, man.
You know,
I want to be in flow and engaged. I want this to be. Let's put in the work.
Oh yeah.
I'm a tryhard, the ultimate tryhard. So, anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, on that podcast, her name was Nat Nat, and she said something that I thought was really powerful, which was, we all, when toxicity or trauma happens, because she asked me a question. She said, "You're very aware of the trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. How did you retrain your central nervous system to react differently when you're triggered?" I was like,
I didn't.
Yeah. I just have to recognize what my patterns were. I said my original pattern was fawn, then fight. So I would fawn and appease in the moment with whatever needed to happen in the moment. And then behind the scenes, I would fight to get bigger, better, stronger. And that was my trauma response. But anyways, so the reason I bring this up is she said what happens when we experience trauma and adversity is a lot of times we disconnect from ourselves. We try to, instead of going inward and facing the trauma or the pain, we try to run from it. And we disconnect from ourself because the pain is in ourself. It's in the self. And I talk about this on podcasts all the time. I don't think I talk about it much on NLU, although I probably should. I think we're all righty or lefty. We have professional development. I said I was professionally well developed. I was the resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, professional development, skills, achievement, improvement. Let's go. I wasn't inner work. I wasn't personally developed. Self-improvement. I was improvement, achievement, not self-improvement. And so this whole self-acceptance thing, I've got this pyramid that I made a blog about of self-belief, self-worth, self-acceptance, self-love, self-respect, the inner work, the self-work. So what happens when we get trauma, and I didn't know this until recently, and hopefully all the listeners can think of their own past, it wasn't my fault that my dad died. It wasn't my fault that I had a stepdad who didn't want kids. It wasn't my fault that my mom never faced the trauma of that in a way that was grieving healthfully. So she kind of ran from that trauma, and I'll leave it there. But it put me in an environment that had a lot of running from trauma. It put me in an environment that wasn't pro-mental health, wasn't pro-personal development, wasn't pro-self-improvement. I playfully joke about this, but I call where I grew up the Boulevard of Broken Dreams. I also know for a fact, and I will say this no matter who hears it, where I grew up had zero self-improvement. I'm talking less than zero. If there's lower than zero, if you can be the opposite of self-improvement, that's where I grew up. And I'm just going to call a spade on that one. But it wasn't my fault, but it is my responsibility to figure out how to exist in that and figure out how to grow from that and figure out how to have a life from that. So my only thing I could figure out was, okay, let me get smarter. That was my solution. I'm going to be smarter than everybody else, and I'm going to study more than everyone else, and I'm going to work harder than everyone else, and eventually I'm going to be in control of my own life. Little did I know, all the answers were inside of me if I just looked within. And we said this on the episode with Nat. I didn't have a journal. Now I journal every single day in the Dreamliner. Shameless plug, Next Level Dreamliner. Link in the show notes. But I dream. I
just said never shameless. Never shameless.
Oh. Dreamliner, link in the show notes. Now I journal every day, but I said to her, because she had mentioned what's it like being a man in therapy, and I said, I often joke, men can't even ask for directions, never mind get a therapist. And I was no different in my 20s. If you had said get a therapist in my 20s, I would have laughed. I'd have been like, no, absolutely. I don't need a therapist. What do you mean? And so I wasn't above that. But now I can tell when I talk to men, meet men, work with men, I can tell the ones that haven't done that. Now I can see it. They're burdened. And it takes someone who's unburdened to recognize someone who's burdened. And so it's this weird thing where it's the water you were swimming in and it's not your fault, but you have got to figure out a way to get into more nutritious water.
Nutritious water? No such thing.
What?
Water's just water, you know?
You know what? Nutritious soil?
Yeah, no, I'm just
You got to
kidding.
repot your plant into
There are,
nutritious
right?
soil. Thanks for ruining my metaphor.
There's minerals and stuff, so technically I think that's like a part of it.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons that I had such low self-worth is because I thought it was my fault that my dad left.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, and again, how illogical I know. Maybe
yeah,
the
but
most,
as a kid, what are you supposed to think?
that's all you can think. That's all you can think. And then it furthers it where all of my friends' families tried to like bring me in. Like I'd eat dinner over there. All
Can I
of
ask you something?
Yeah, of course you can.
This came up for me and I didn't have the courage to ask it before.
No,
Because this is a public medium, right? This takes a lot of courage.
let's do it.
Do you think they were doing that because they pitied you a
Yes.
little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
think
had
there
that
were
same sort of thing. It's almost like they wanted... I had certain parents growing up that I think knew that I grew up in a tough spot.
I think they
and
were afraid for us. I think they were
Yeah, I
for
think
me.
you're right. I think they were
Yeah.
afraid for us, yeah.
I think they were afraid, and
I think some of them have been very surprised at where we ended up, honestly.
I hope so. I like that. I hope so in a positive way, right? Because it could have gone the other way. They could have been surprised where
Definitely.
we ended up in the other direction. But I think it was my nuclear family experience was very different than their nuclear family experience, and I think that they could recognize that. And maybe they were afraid if that continues the way it's going, who knows what's going to happen. That's the weirdest thing is, I don't know. Yeah, that mattered. But what you do with that, we're going to do an episode on this tomorrow. What you do with that is more important than what happened in many ways. And again, context is important, but at least for me in my situation. But yeah, I think that hurt my self-worth even worse. Because it was
agreed.
like, why is everybody trying to save me?
Yep.
You know, like, why is everybody, am I that bad? Like, am I screwed? Am I going to, you know?
I'm sorry, brother. I'm so sorry. Kevin and I have a running joke of just sometimes when he tells stories about his life, it's...
The deeper I go, the more uncomfortable Alan gets, and he has to laugh. Same thing
I
for me,
can't help it. Sometimes it's just brutal.
That was the way I felt.
Your reaction to it too is just funny because am I really that screwed? Like, am I screwed? The way you said it is funny.
It was really hard for me to imagine that people were just that nice. Just that nice. And some people I'm sure were. I'm sure some people were that nice. But I think I always felt pitied. I think it was always that. Like, oh, how's your martial arts training going? It was almost like they were looking down. Like, how's that going for you? I remember, here you go, this is a good one for you. I remember there was a guy that used to come into the gas station, and he was pretty much like, you know that's not going to happen, right? Like, you're not going to, what happens if you get hurt? You know, it's like, dude, let me just pump your gas, man. You know what I mean? You don't have to shit on my dreams. Like, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do here.
What, did he come in a Beamer?
It was not a Beamer. I don't remember what car it was. But I always felt, I wonder if one of the reasons I tried to live life so differently, and all I mean is like not going to college, quitting every job I ever had, doing weird random things, is because at least if you're gonna look at me and notice how different I am, I can make it in a positive direction. Like, how many people do you know that want to be a professional fighter? Nobody? All right, cool. I'm gonna do that. That's what I'll do. I'm going to train to be a professional fighter. What are you going to say? You're not going to say anything negative about that. You're going to say like, well, really? That's super cool. I remember people used to say, do they make money? And I said, yeah, the best fighters right now make like $250,000 a fight. You fight 4 times a year, you make $1 million. I was like, that's pretty good.
Now it's more than that.
It's way more than that now.
Yeah.
In some ways. There's more opportunity, right? There's more opportunity. Imagine if I just went and fought on pay-per-view in front of 3 million people. It's a really good opportunity to get exposure to an audience if you're a podcaster or a streamer or whatever, musician, whatever it may be. But I think that's one of the reasons I always wanted to do something different, is because I already felt different. And at least if I'm going to get treated differently, it can be treated differently towards something that is an actual positive outcome. I love saying that I'm a podcaster now. Love it. When I go to weddings and people say, what do you do? I love it. There's that little piece of me that's like, this is going to be different. When I say this, you're going to look at me different. Because it's rarer.
Different as in good different, or
Yeah.
different as in,
No.
oh, yay.
Different,
Right.
different as in good different. I used to get that at my other job. What do you do? Oh, I travel up and down the East Coast and we work on government or state buildings to make them more energy efficient. Like, what do you mean? Well, I spend weeks at a time on the road, and I am a foreman of a crew, and we work on these buildings. And like, it was different. I always liked that. I always knew I felt different. I don't know if I am different. I felt different. And for the beginning part of my life, I felt like I was a victim to the difference. And then eventually it became, well, I'll just be the creator of the difference. All right, cool. That sounds cool. And it worked pretty well.
What is it now?
Who knows? The creator of the difference. Yeah, my life's super weird. My life is super strange. You don't talk to people, really. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have conversations with people.
I have conversations with people all the time.
Yeah, but it's like people in the community.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I go to jiu-jitsu and people say, what do you do for a living? And it's like, I'm a podcaster. Wait, what?
Yeah.
That. It's different.
People
now, in the
don't ask
beginning,
me what I do.
they probably assume you're, I don't know what they assume you are. Insurance salesman, probably?
An insurance salesman?
Maybe. Nothing. Hey, if you're an insurance salesman out there, nothing
I
against it.
actually sell shrimp out of a van. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. Oh, that's funny.
I just remember stuff like that. I remember how I felt. I remember feeling so insignificant. I remember one of my things was when I was sad and I would drink, I would run away. You're probably going to laugh at this too, because I always wanted somebody to chase me. That was very, do you resonate with that at all?
Yeah, for sure. For me,
So-
I was running away to get alone. I needed solitude. I needed to find myself.
See, I wanted people to follow me. I wanted to know I was worth chasing. I never felt worth chasing.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So just a little bit about me.
Do you think it's unlovable or unwanted or unworthy? Which one of those is or is it defective? It's a pretty hardcore conversation.
I think it's probably defective. Next Level Nation, what is happening? If you've thought to yourself, I want to try coaching, but you don't really know where to start, group coaching would be a wonderful place for you. That's really why we created it in the first place. We start a new round every 90 days. So if you're hearing this, go to the website, nextleveluniverse.com, and we have the landing page where you can actually hold your spot right now. Even if there's a group going on right now, you can still lock your spot for the next one. The biggest thing that we've seen is as we get closer and closer to the date, unfortunately, some people end up missing. The group fills up and they can't do it, and then they end up regretting that. So please head over to the website. The link will be in the show notes, and we would love to see you there.
You've never shared this on the podcast, I don't think, but you did share it in a meetup, and I think it was fire, which was you were working at the hospital, and this was on the meetup. So if you were out there, wow, listener, if you're out there and you came to the meetup about self-worth, how to build your self-worth, you'll remember this story, because I think I laughed. That's my bad. Definitely. But I also came in with, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised with how much she actually wants. So there was this nurse. Can you tell a story?
Yeah, so I worked overnights, 11 to 7, and I was hired to be a project person. A project person is kind of maintenance, but not that high up. So like we would strip and wax floors and do stuff like that. Well, I didn't do a lot of stripping and waxing of floors in the beginning. I did mostly housekeeping stuff. So I would clean bathrooms, I'd clean floors, I'd change out needle boxes, whatever had to get done, I would do. That was my job. And the kid I worked with, Adam, cool dude, very, 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 very cool. Him and I had a lot of fun together. He said, "Hey, you know that tall blonde nurse on I think it was called Gannett. I think that was the wing of the hospital. You know that tall blonde nurse that works on Gannett? You know her, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think so." And
in your truth, it was, yeah, of course I do. Right?
I don't know. I don't really remember. I don't think I knew her that.
Shoot.
No, hold on. I think I probably did, but I probably was super shy because I assumed she would never go for me.
I just want to give you a little context of why I laughed. Okay,
she was
fair.
like 6'1". I'm
Gotcha.
I was the same height back then as I am now.
I just want to give you a little context. Back when I worked in corporate, there was this one girl in the office. It was mostly men at this engineering company, and there was this really, really, really beautiful woman that everyone knew, right? And I thought that you were pulling one of those. Which one? You know?
No.
It's like, hey, did you hear about? Do you know Janice? Which one is that? When it's like in reality, you 100% know because you have a super secret crush on her.
Holding back your excitement.
Yeah.
I genuinely, I don't know if that was the case. I'm not sure. I'm sure I probably knew of her. I don't know if I had a crush. I don't know.
A tall, beautiful blonde. I'm sure you knew of her.
Yeah, I'm sure I knew of her. Yeah, but he pretty much said she thinks you're cute. She'd like to go on a date. And I was like, get out of here, man. Get out of here. What are we doing? Why are you torturing me? Get out of here. And he's like, no, seriously. Like, she saw you, and her and I are friends, and she mentioned it. And I was like, so what? So this nurse, who's like, 6 inches taller than me, wants to go on a date. She wants to hang out with me because I felt so insignificant. I felt there's an unfortunate energetic hierarchy where not everyone, but there was doctors that obviously looked down on me. They're doctors. I'm the guy who comes and cleans after they do what they do. Nurses, there were some nurses that were that way too, where we were kind of for lack of better phrasings, the peons in the hospital. And I could not wrap my mind around the fact that somebody like that would want to spend time with me.
But she wasn't like that.
No, I don't
now
mean like...
you know she wasn't like that.
I don't mean
she
like
did.
that.
Not to mention you were...
She did. I hung out with her.
Super athletic. Oh, you did?
Yeah. We went on a date. Didn't work
How'd it
out.
go?
Not well. It's not. It's complicated.
Well,
but
this is a good lesson too, because self-worth, you will deny opportunities that you don't believe you deserve.
You will self-sabotage for sure.
You'll self-sabotage. Yeah, that's what that was, man. And dude, in hindsight, I remember back then, you were jacked and athletic, all-star baseball player.
Yeah,
you had more value than you realized. That's all I'm saying.
It's fair, but I think it was fairly shallow value.
Yeah, okay.
And I didn't think that was going to work.
Isn't that where we all start?
Yeah. So yeah, I went on a date with this person. But for me, it was mind-blowing. There's no possibility. I feel so insignificant where I am in life. Again, my friends are either, I don't know if they were still in college or if they had graduated college, but I would get the call or the text on Friday night of like, hey, we're hanging out. Do you want to come out? It's like, no, I got to work tonight. I can't hang out. I'm going to work at 11. It was brutal. You want to talk about lonely? I told you this. I would work 11 to 7, and then I would go golfing by myself at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd go rent a cart, and I'd go play 18 holes by myself because I didn't want to go to sleep, and nobody else is available at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. So I'd go rent a cart, and I'd play 18 holes, and then I don't know, go get a coffee, go to the gym, hang out, and then I would go to sleep at like 2. I'd sleep from like 2 to 7. And then I'd wake up, and then I'd go to work that night.
And then go to play another quick 18.
So I played a lot of golf.
You did?
I was lonely. Were
you good?
So
Did you good at
lonely.
golf?
No, I was terrible. I need to play more for sure. I didn't play
Well, this
enough
is
to
back
get
to
good.
it's not your fault, but your responsibility. If you can make something of it, that's all it comes down to. Everyone, you can make something of it. Are you maybe you don't have the perfect ingredients to make the best chocolate cake, but you can make something.
Do you know one of the reasons that I try to show up the way I do is because I don't want to make anybody feel insignificant. That's one of my key core values as a human being. If I come on your podcast, do not talk to me about how you're small and nobody knows. I don't want to hear it. You're good for you for having a podcast. Don't compare. Don't worry about it. The last thing I'm going to do is pour into you making yourself insignificant. I don't want to do that. I've been there. I don't want to do that. So that's going back to make sure it actually touches on today's topic. it's my responsibility to make sure I don't make someone feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's my belief.
As long as you don't dial down who you are to do that. I think that's...
You and I have a different relationship with that.
Yeah. I had this moment where I wonder to myself if certain people in my life, when you were talking... I mean, think about it, right? If that's the way you felt around her back then, what if other people that feel like... that have low self-worth, what if they feel that way around me?
I think it's very possible.
And then they respond by either avoiding or maybe puffing up or what. Just something clicked for me right there. And I do feel like it triggers people. I ran into someone from my past at the gym yesterday. And yeah, he was a little weird. It was a little wonky. And again, it's all good. But
I think it's energetic. You don't understand. You have such an intense energy. I don't know how to explain it. You're just when I go to Alan's house, usually we have a running joke at this point where I text him and I'll say I'm Jeff, and then I'll just sit outside on the porch. Could be a minute, could be 12 minutes, who knows, depends. And when he opens the door, I pretend I'm a door-to-door salesman. I try to sell him something every time.
Every single time.
Every time.
Hey, man, have you seen these new backpacks?
Yeah. I think
it's like 7 a.m. I still have my hair all crazy.
Yeah, he's usually a hot mess. I think one of the reasons I do that is because it's awkward seeing you for the first time in a while. It's just like the energetic... There's a presence. I don't know how else to explain it. Now I've given away my defense mechanism, which is a shame, because next time I use it, you're going to psychoanalyze me. But
no, I already knew that's why you were doing that.
Oh, so
I never used to. I never
have to change my shtick.
You know what is helping me understand this, and I want to make sure we bring this back to the listeners rather than just talking about me. Emilia has that effect on people too.
Definitely.
And so now I'm able to witness it. So she'll hold the door for someone, and you know how you use the little kiosk thing for key fob, not kiosk, key fob for the gym. And I'm telling you, the dude couldn't do the key fob. He does this all the time. He's in there all the time, but for some reason in our presence, he just couldn't seem to do it. You could tell he was rattled. And again, that's all fine. I don't know if I get it. I don't understand. And I don't want to be intense and intimidating. I just don't want to not be me.
Fair.
And
fair.
I think that's probably where unlovable comes from for me, which is everyone acts really weird around me. And I just want to be. So
well, for most of your life, you haven't been able to be you.
For me, you mentioned. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, you first.
You mentioned on yesterday's Freestyle Friday, you said something along the lines of podcasting has. You're overcoming the fear of podcasting. Dude, I don't feel that way at all anymore. I don't. At the beginning, if you had asked me if I was afraid to podcast, I would have said no, not at all. Now I'm actually kind of afraid of it because I'm being more me. So I didn't resonate with you at all on that last. I mean, I did for the conversation. I didn't in terms of that. When you said, I don't know if I'm afraid of public speaking anymore. I'm sitting there going, am I afraid of public speaking? I thought I wasn't afraid.
You're not afraid of adding value. You're afraid of being disliked.
Yeah. I think I'm feeling that more than I used to. I'm actually letting it in.
Yeah.
I could tell that the person I saw at the gym yesterday, they aren't excited. They're not happy to see me. And that's fine, I guess. It just kind of sucks a little. You don't have to be happy to see me, but I trigger people. And I just want to lift. Like, let's get after it. I don't want to even talk, to be honest. But whenever we do end up talking, I get it. I do. You either puff up or you avoid or you go docile. It's trauma responses. And I remember there was someone who intimidated me a lot, and I avoided him. Yeah. His name was Matt, and I just went in the other room and took a minute because he was just, his energy and his presence was so powerful. He had a very empowered energy, and he's the man. I mean, maybe that's all it is. So, anyways.
I don't know. I can't claim to know, but I know I just feel a different energy when I'm around you. That's the best way to put it. I don't know if that's a me thing. I don't know. But it's always been that way to a degree. It's just...
Is it more lately? Or are you more used to it?
It's a great question. I'd say it's probably more lately. I haven't seen you in person in a few months, though.
Yeah, that's fair.
Since Next Level Live. A month.
Yeah.
That was different.
Well, after Scotland, we're doing a day-long mastermind. That'll be...
Yeah. I'm going to have to come up with a new shtick, though. I'm not going to be able to sell you anything. I'll have to work on that.
No. I hope you do. I'll buy it. Have you heard of these new bottles? They have it is thundering up a storm outside. I don't know if you can hear that.
Yeah.
It's super
I thought it was
thundering
sunny
right now. So
I very much enjoy. I hope everyone watching and listening is getting the takeaways from the conversation. Here's the weird thing that we're growing through right now. And I'm sure you could probably tell just in the way I'm talking. I'm just trying to be more me, and I'm trying to figure out who the hell I am. That's always going to happen. But I remember in the beginning, a lot of what we talked about was just stories and lessons and examples that we experienced. And I think that's, I don't know. I think that's good. But just know that the reason we're telling the stories that we're telling are hopefully so they're valuable.
Of course.
As much as it sounds like I love talking about myself, I probably do not as much as you think. I do. I enjoy it, but only because I want it to be valuable. I hate talking about myself behind the scenes. Very rarely do I.
The goal is to learn through experience and to bring that experience to the forefront and then learn about it. To bring this full circle, I also have to go to the bathroom before we record our next episode.
We're not going to record another one, so you'll be good after this.
Okay.
We're not going to have
Well,
time.
the last thing I'll share on this episode is it's not your fault, it's your responsibility. I think there's something in this episode for everybody when it comes to, okay, whatever cards you were dealt, whatever hand you were dealt, whatever resources you have, whatever country you're born in, whatever ethnicity, whatever culture, whatever religion, whatever, you can make something of that. But you have to believe that you can in order to do it. And I said this on the last podcast I was on earlier today. Again, shout out to Nat. I don't actually know her full name, so I'm just calling her Nat. It's Nat B on Instagram. It was an awesome interview. Nat B-E, spelled just like it sounds. But she and I talked a lot about facing who you actually are. If you're afraid to not be enough, you got to look at where you're afraid to be not enough. If you're afraid to be too much, you got to look at what you're afraid of socially. And so maybe you grew up, I had shame around where I grew up for sure. I didn't have a normal family. My birth father's, my last name isn't even Lazarus. My real last name is Alan McCorkle. Right? So how can that not have an impact? And I'm starting to understand as I get older and more mature that all of that stuff had an impact. And what can I make of it? Because someone asked me on a podcast recently, they said, forgive me, but why don't you change your name back? I said, honestly, I have thought about it, but I was given the choice to take this name. It's part of who I am. It's part of my story. I'm the only non-Greek Lazarus, because other Greek people will be like, Lazarus? You're blonde hair, blue-eyed. What's going on here, man? But at the end of the day, whatever. That's part of my story. It's been messy. It's been a little messy. It's been a lot of messy. That's okay. I think it's what you make of the mess. That's what matters.
Well, that's what we're talking about tomorrow. For episode number 1707, we're talking about, is your adversity your advantage, based on a TED Talk that Alan watched. If you have not yet joined our private Facebook group, Next Level Nation, please do so if you're looking for a group of like-minded individuals. If you're not, no worries, no stress, no pressure. And our next round of group coaching starts, July 9th.
Nice.
Yeah. And then our next meetup is on June 6th, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Group coaching for the next round will be 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All meetups moving forward will be 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. So we can get our restful night's sleep.
Oh, yeah.
I already told everyone what tomorrow's episode is. It is Your Adversity, Your Advantage for episode number 1707. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Make the very most of your mess. Next Level Nation.